So the first thing to talk about is what non-duality is. And it's funny because when I drop that idea in, like, what wants to come back is silence. Like, how can we even put this in words? Who we truly are doesn't have any urge to speak about this. I mean, speaking about it's happening, so that's the creation of what is, but inherently it doesn't have an urge to be like, oh yes, we've got to spread the message of non-duality and save the universe. It's really not like that. It doesn't care, but not in a caring way which we as humans think. It doesn't care in regards to what's happening. Yeah, care is a very difficult word because we as humans are desperate to be cared for and looked after and part of the group. So when you say that, you automatically imagine somebody without empathy or a human that's not caring. But it's not like that. It's just still. It's free of any desire and any need in this life. It's experiencing itself. It's also in movement because it is everything, but it's also this like deathly silence of all things. So your true essence in this moment has no urge to be anything. It's not looking to be, to have, to want, to do anything. At all. Which is so bizarre for us as humans to imagine, because the human brain is wired to be something, to orientate itself for something, to get something. So the idea that there is something inside us that has no desire to survive, no desire to carry on living, no desire to spread the absolute miraculously wonderful message of non-duality, it's just contented as it is right now. And this is an intellectual. The mind is like, let me understand this. Let me think about this. But it's not intellectual. Like, our essence is still. It's not something you see, but it's something that you are, that you've always known. And what non-duality is to me, or what this message is an energetic shift. So that is remembered, like that comes back into experiencing. It's not an intellectual realization, although intellectual realizations are part of the process. it's a movement to this stillness. So your essence no longer feels like a bound character moving in time that is something. Your essence feels like this vastness that's totally still and in movement simultaneously. It's just here right now as this. It's not something you know, so maybe the person's like, oh yeah, this is fantastic, I feel fantastic, I know exactly what you're talking about, I most probably had a awakening 5 lifetimes ago, and it's just now that it's beginning to set in. It's nothing to do with that. Like, that's the play in life. This is talking about something that's here always, but not playing in life. So it's like your access to the infinite, your access to the freedom. This spaciousness. And it's connected to consciousness and the I am. Like, what is looking now? What is experiencing now? What's never moved? What's here right now that's free? Mind is looking in behavior, in emotions, in feelings, and what you're thinking, and what I'm saying. And yet there's stillness right here, right here, right here. And it doesn't want anything from you. You don't have to be a good boy or a good girl in order to get this. It doesn't want anything. It's just here, free. The mind is really amazing. It's like it tells all types of stories, like about why this isn't happening, or what's this, or what's that, or that this isn't good enough, this isn't leading you to something. And then what happens if you put the mind in the I am? Like, notice the mind's resistance to that. Like, if you put the attention in the I am, how it's like a squid being fried. It's awful if you've ever seen that. So just notice that. Like, why is it doing that? What happens when you put the attention in the I am? That's still someone doing something. I'm not saying that's the ultimate reality and you're going to get yourself to liberation, because all of this is stories. But if you put your attention in the I am, there is some form of dissolving that happens, and there is an openness or a spaciousness that can arise. It's like a magical little trick. It's like if you imagine the personality or the illusion like dense clouds in a sky, it's like when you do that, the clouds become thinner, so you becomes thinner, and then something else can be exposed, and it's grace. Like, you can't make liberation happen, but it is grace in the end. But it's like you could say, giving an opportunity for grace to arise. So notice how the mind wants to be entertained now. Like, it might not say that it wants to be entertained, but it does. And it wants to have experience, ironically, of less of itself. So the mind wants to be relaxed. It's not telling you this. And it might know from watching non-duality videos or listening to them that there is some form of relaxation that happens. So there's some form of expansion that happens. So just notice that. But what's actually happening in these talks and when you're listening to non-duality is there is a presence that's happening. So the mind is not going off into its seeking world, into thinking about time and thinking about its problems or not its problems. There is a becoming present. It also happens when you're listening to music you love or doing something you love or enjoy. Like, it stops seeking in time. And it's the same that can happen when you put the attention in the I am. There is a surrendering of a certain amount of seeking, and so the person becomes lighter and there's more freedom, and this is so healthy and healing for the person. It's such a good exercise to do. But you have to be conscious that your story, that you're doing it, is a story. The story that I'm prescribing something is a story. Like, in the reality, if you put your attention right here, there is nothing happening and there's nobody telling you to do it. It's really miraculous. There's just what's happening. I am. I am. I am. That's so nice. Seeing my partner like looking down, and there he is. there I am too. Don't know what I'm up to. He is. Who he is when I communicate with him is the I am, is the empty looking. He's not really the personality structure. That's the beautiful display that we watch. And these two personality structures get on really well, so they're drawn together. But that's not who he is. Who he is the empty looking. Who you are is the empty looking and the I am. You could say the nothing being the empty looking and the everything being the I am. I am. So just notice, like, what's happening to the mind? Is it like really disagreeing with Lisa about having to put the attention in the I am? The mind doesn't like it. It's like its worst enemy. It's like, F off. I'm going it alone. I'm going to another teacher that says there's nothing you can do. This is beep, beep, beep. Maybe the other type are like, yes, she's finally giving a practice. There is something I can do to get to this. And then another type of mind is like feeling really insecure, like I can't do it, I'm never going to make it. And all of that are thoughts. And then there's this. Thoughts are useful, but this has been forgotten. There's this. So putting the attention back to the I am. Here we are. I am. And the I am is no thing. It's not a thing, yet it's all things. And it's got the quality of love to it, like in deep relaxation. There is no place it wants to go. It's just experiencing. It's totally unconditioned love. The person is always looking for unconditioned love in things, in people, in situations, in work, in money. And this is unconditioned love as you. Like that's who you are. Not you as I am something. I am prior to all these labels, this beingness, this sense of existence. This is. Hang on, just let me revert back to what the title of the talk is. Yeah, nice. So now we've talked about non-duality a little bit. Let's talk about that in society. So in society, we operate in the assumption that there is somebody as a separate entity that's relating to another separate entity, and that we have free will and choices, and that we're all part of this society making free wills and choices. And the society, like the government, the taxes, is kind of a reflection of the mind of everybody, because that's what gets voted in, sort of. I mean, it depends on where you live, and it sort of gets voted in, but it's also very much dictated by people that are rich, that want to stay rich. So there's also that element to it, or in power and want to stay in power. But sort of it's also a reflection, because you could also say that the people are stronger than the people in power, and so the people feel disempowered, and then it's reflected in society. There's also great things that we do in society. I'm not just meaning to be doom and gloom, but it's set up with this premise that we are all individual souls with free will and choice. Science is beginning to debunk that. And like, you have to understand, like, that in a way, it was always about us all living together as a group. Like even speaking was about living together as a group, and religion was about us living together as a group. There were elements where people were having religious experiences, but as soon as it went to the masses, it's again about like, you are bad if you do this, you're good if you do this. It's about group control and how we do that, and how we keep a peaceful society. So, in 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago, everything was God's fault or God's will. Well, no, everything was God's will when it was good, but when it was bad, the person is a devil and being taken over by a devil and has to be killed or stoned or something. But it was kind of, you can see how this helps keep a peaceful society and keeps people in check, and so we're all living together and working together and growing, because that's the objective of the human society, is to grow and to expand and to keep on growing. And so most of our religion, most of our society, work ethics is set up to carry on with that premise. And it very much puts responsibility on individuals. So currently we live in a society where if you're not happy, it's your fault. You as an individual have created that problem. And if you are happy, it's down to you. Or mostly actually it's down to luck. If someone's happy, they're just lucky. They're just lucky. And even the way we see psychology, everything is about a subject in relation to an object. And that is really ingenious, because that helps us survive and that helps us communicate. Like if we didn't have a subject in which we were speaking from, we wouldn't be able to name and identify other things in order to create meaning. So for the last 7-8 years, I've been learning different languages. I'm hopeless at learning different languages, but I have a bulldozer mentality, which when it decides to do something, it just carries on doing it. And so even though I'm taking years to become fluent in a different language, when you're learning a different language, you really appreciate meaning and how meaning is all constructed. So grammar often in different languages is very different, and also idioms. I'm not always sure about if I get that right word. Idioisms. And and the way that you change grammar has different meanings. Just for example, in English, we use work in many ways. I'm working towards a degree, I'm going to work, I've been working in the garden, I've been working on my relationship, I've been working on becoming enlightened. You say all these different words with work. Traditionally, it's just meant to mean, I presume, going into the office and doing your work where you earn money. But in different languages, the word work, their word work, might only mean specific things, or it might mean even more things of doing, of activity. And it creates such different meaning if you don't get it right in those specific sentences. And so you can see how just ingenious languages, and how our mind is constantly deciphering what people mean. It's not like sentences are inherent with meaning. It means something slightly different to everybody. And particularly if you're speaking across different languages, and you come from different countries, and maybe you're all collectively speaking a particular language, but the meanings can be so different for people. And our biggest story is the idea that there is somebody inside these bodies relating to an outside world. And that's not true. That's a story that we're telling ourselves, which is really miraculous, because it helps us navigate through things like, I made you a cup of tea, would you make me a cake? Whatever the story is. Or I brought up your water, therefore can I have a bit of, I brought up your water yesterday, so can you give me a bit of water tonight? Whatever the negotiation is, it's ingenious, but it's not who we are, and this is the biggest mistake. That is a description that's moving in time. It's not something that's here all the time. You is something that's coming and going with thought. And what's happening in most people is as they progress through age, the thought of themselves becomes more and more intense. I feel like that's why a lot of people get more and more unhappy, because they're thinking about themselves more. And they're always like imagining themselves interacting with things and imagining themselves and having conversations with people in their head. So it's kind of like this constant referring back to some entity that's inside the head. But there isn't an inherent entity there. That's kind of like brain chemistry or magic happening, giving the appearance of something. But there is something that's experiencing that person that is always here in every situation and is always free. So that person is coming and going. That thought of you, that image of you, that feeling of you, that claiming of you is coming and going. But the consciousness and the I am never move, never leave. They're always here. And this is totally ignored by society. So when this begins to wake up in someone, it can be really conflicting interacting with people, because there's something much deeper that's happening. And people can stay in some very simplistic stories that are repeating again and again and again, like not expanding. So, somebody can spend their whole life just repeating the story of what a victim they are in different situations. You went out to the shops and it was too busy, and what a victim you are to it being too busy. Or you went to the shops and there was no food, and what a victim you are to, say, Brexit. Or you went to work and someone was rude to you, and what a victim you are. Or you haven't got enough money, so what a victim you are to this bad society. And they don't even notice that they're always in this story. They're just repeating this story, and there is like a complete contraction and identity in it, and it feels like the consciousness and the I am are inside that identity, whereas really the I am and the consciousness are experiencing it. So the identity is coming and going in them, but this kind of like stickiness happens, and this is where there's what I mean by the energetic awakening, is this separation where it becomes apparent in every moment that who you actually are is the consciousness and the I am, and the person is coming and going, appearing and disappearing in that. So some really extreme teachers would say that there is no I, meaning the character, which is true, but it's always going to come and go, but it's just not the center. It's not the one that's experiencing. The I of who you think you are, your feelings, your thoughts, your emotions, like everything that's being experienced is coming and going. So what is it that's always here? So society has no place for this. I mean, it is beginning to manifest more on YouTube and on social media, but it's still very small. It has no place of this. It has no interest, because what's appearing in most people is this urge to survive, which could also be survive through a very negative story, but it's like a running of a story and a movement in time to be something, to get something. So even if it's maintaining a story about yourself or doing particular activities to get something for yourself. And that's what's important to most people, because it's mixed with your survival energy of growth, like the idea to growth. So you're kind of growing this identity, and you're growing its world, like accumulating things, affecting things, like, having kids, like, so it kind of becomes enmeshed with your natural energy as a human to grow and to expand, but it gets enmeshed with this ego identity, whatever we call it, which wants to be something grander, that actually creates you more problems than not. Because freedom is never found in you getting bigger. The bigger that the illusory you get, the more you suffer, actually, because the more you're removed from who you truly are, which is the I am and the empty looking. It's like the clouds become more dense. So what to do about this in the mind? So notice that that's a story. That's another story that's appearing. But your job is simply to keep moving the attention away from the stories and back to the I am, and let grace and magic take over. And this is it. So the story arises like, what am I to do about it? I must do something about it. I can't bear this anymore. That's a story that's connected more than likely to the solar plexus. So you can become conscious of where it is and the thoughts and connect it to the past, like where that comes from in the past. Like as a child, did you feel disenfranchised? Because all the thoughts that you're having are something you'll have repeated your whole life. So getting to know them, but at the same time, moving your attention off that and back to the I am. That doesn't mean ignore the feeling, like really embracing the feeling. And if it's really strong, then you can do emotional release techniques, which there is plenty. You can find that on the internet. You can go to my reference page and there's loads of activities, energy work. You can do therapy, emotional work, emotional release work. Yeah. But from a non-duality perspective, it's keep coming back to the I am. I am. And like that's what works here, but if it's also consciousness works better for you, then call it consciousness. They're the same thing, really. It's just two sides of the same. So the consciousness to me is the emptiness, and the I am is the everythingness, is the love. It's this feeling of being. But there's also this like empty looking that you can put your attention in, but they're kind of the same thing. It's like coming present. So that's what's here. That is what is here. I am, and there's empty looking. Yeah. So when in society, it is your golden opportunity to explore all the illusions that we get in together as humans, because then there's like so many bizarre illusions that are played and games that are played amongst people. Like, yeah, they're just super intense and unconscious, and it's like a never-ending learning. Like I'm still learning about like the games that get played out amongst humans. It's like immense. It's fascinating. So each time you're interacting with society, it's like the perfect opportunity to examine what's going on. It's yeah, it's super exciting. Like the seeking, the aversion. What is creating seeking? What is creating the mind to like go mental, and the energy to be like no, 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 or the addictions. Like what is that? What a great, interesting exploration, while simultaneously putting your attention in the I am and noticing what's making you like run away from this moment and not want to experience it. The only like a thing I would say about the I am practice is if you're in extreme trauma or OCD, then you need to work on that, and that it might exacerbate it. So yeah, you might want to work with someone one-on-one, a trauma worker or therapist who's also into non-duality. You can find people, therapists that work on trauma who are into non-duality on my reference page. So you might want to work with them before you continue practicing the I am. And also for people that have trauma, like when trauma's arising, do trauma work. Don't do the I am or the exploring of the emotion, because that can send your nervous system into an automatic mode of being, and you need to calm your nervous system down first before trying to do these things. Like those sorts of things might exacerbate it. Nice.